Hi, it's Friday. It's 3 o'clock. Welcome to Together Unlocked. It's also National Answer Your Cat's Questions Day. So I'm delighted to say that with me in my East London studio, in addition to our chair, the artist Julie Newman, who's been locked down with me since last March, we also have at least one feline guest. But we'll come back to that. Welcome to Together Unlocked. We're a community interest company, Together 2012 CIC, run by disabled artists, mostly but not entirely based in the main London 2012 Paralympic host borough of Newham. We run a year-round programme covering all sorts of arts, from carnival art, street art, music, visual art, photography, filmmaking, dance, and much, much more. I'm Ju Gosling, also known as Ju90. I'm an artist and artistic director. With me, as I say, in my East London studio is our chair, Julie Newman. We'll come back for a bit of audio description in a minute, but first we will go over to our long-wheeled sofa to the other end in the West Midlands to have some introductions and audio description from our co-hosts.
Well, good evening. Yes, it is. It's nearly dark already,
It's
honest.
dark. It is
Good afternoon, and welcome to Friday, I think. I think I must have just woken up. So I am Robin Surgeoner. I am business director at Together 2012 CIC, and I am an artist in my own right, known as Angry Fish. For those who viewed earlier in the week, we have played with our background, but have now found a suitable way of restoring our theatre. So we have our plush, beautiful backdrop now back in place. So today I am sporting lovely silvery white hair, little bit dishevelled. Don't know when that happened. I have no rim black armed glasses, a rather pale skin at the moment due to it being the middle of winter. And I am wearing a black round neck t-shirt with a big logo in bright green, which says protect the human, but I'll tell you more about that shortly.
Hi, and I'm Tracy Surgeoner, and it's really nice to be here. I'm usually sat in a different room watching the live feed to make sure there's no problems. And I have got long blonde hair, which could do with a haircut, but can't get out, so it's getting longer and longer. I'm wearing a pale blue sparkly jumper with a grey and sparkly neck scarf. And some beige casual trousers.
And welcome, Tracy. Yes. Our
Thank
other
you.
regular co-host, Josh, will be back after 3:30, but Tracy is going to be leading a new art section for us today, and we hope for many Fridays to come. So we dress up to go out to stay in on a Friday. There's not been any dressing up to go out for nearly a year in this household, and I'm sure in many other shielding households. And I think you've only really dressed up for the hospital and the occasional bit of work. So on a Friday, we follow the example of the New Zealanders who, when they were under lockdown, had their formal Fridays. They dressed up on a Friday to stay in, but dressed up as if they were going to the opera. We don't really do that. So we choose things that we'd like to do, real or imaginary, or indeed online. Sometimes we dress up to go out to stay in, and we watch something appropriate. Today I am wearing, well, something that unfortunately is fading into the background. So I'm going to have to remember to really ditch most of my dressing up outfits because they are indeed silver. I've got a silver baseball cap over a self-styled, as in I cut and coloured it, what we describe as a corona crop. I've got pale olive skin, green eyes behind black plastic glasses, not grasses. I've got black wrist braces, silver coloured jewellery, and along with my silver baseball cap, I have a shiny grey nylon-y hoodie and it says, I think, tune in remixed dance classic. But we all had a little bit of a trouble trying to work out what that said. Behind me is silver grey curtains, and you can just see a bit of our graffiti banner, which is covered with representations of all the art forms we cover. And of course, our teddy bear, who was triumphant in this week's Clockwork Paralympics. If you'd like to know more about the Clockwork Paralympics, then do tune in on a Wednesday. But all we can say is I never realised that a Paralympic multi-medalist could get so interested, Robin, on the fate of clockwork toys. That's what comes of there being absolutely no sport. Before I go over to Julie, I should audio describe Leonardo, who is the young fluffy black cat on her lap. So, as I said, it's National Answer Your Cat's Question Days, but I have some questions for Leo, so don't go anywhere. But first, Julie, what do you look like, and where are you dressed up to go out to stay in? And then we should find out where they're going in the West Midlands.
I'm, as you say, currently wearing a black fluffy cat on my lap. I have gold and silver hair, increasingly long and lengthening. I have dark rimmed glasses. I'm wearing a white T-shirt. It says in rainbow colours, together, brave, kind, strong. Sorry,
the cat thinks he's being talked about.
And we've got this. And there's a little rainbow at the bottom of the T-shirt. And why I've put this on is, I think, for two reasons. One is because I'm thrilled about the States and what's happening with the inauguration over there, and the sense of togetherness which is coming out. And the other thing is that, as an ex-nurse, then I thought it would be fun to go and have tea with Sister Monica Joan in Poplar from Meet the Midwife and
Call the Midwife
and talk about the old days.
Because this was sold as an NHS fundraising T-shirt, wasn't it, for the NHS charities last summer?
Yeah, for sure.
So where are you dressed up to go out to stay in?
Okay, so as I kind of briefly described earlier, I'm wearing a black round neck T-shirt with a, what you describe, I'll just move the mic for a sec. A very bright green placard. It's an Amnesty International T-shirt that says "Protect the Human." But actually, I am dressed up to go out, to stay in, to go to an Amanda Gorman poetry recital.
Brilliant.
Who, if you haven't seen it, go on to YouTube or wherever. She read an incredible poem as a response to the changing situation in the States, and it was just so powerful and insightful.
I thought it was wonderful. Her books, which are not yet published, are currently number 1 and number 2 on the Amazon bestseller list.
And they're not even out yet.
Yeah, absolutely incredible. And they are now going to publish that poem as a standalone publication. I think she's only 22 or 23. It was just so wonderful to see a young poet of colour. And I think personally, well, not just personally, as an organisation, we all remember Lionel M. Macaulay, who's performed with us and worked with us and should have been starring in the opening of our festival, but indeed, as a black poet in New Jersey, was murdered last September. So I also had a bit of a tear in my eye thinking Lionel would have just been so happy about this. And I think having just had a bit of a contact with that community of young poets and dancers when we were talking last summer, I just think it made, of course, it's been absolutely so powerful all over the world. But I think for those young black urban artists, and I don't mean urban in the way that people use it in the music sense, I think it was enormously important. Yes, she's a Harvard graduate. She doesn't represent, perhaps the average kind of US artist, but I thought it was quite amazingly wonderful.
But she was brought up by a single parent, and she also had difficulties with her speech when she was younger.
Absolutely,
So, you know,
absolutely.
she's been there. She knows what it's
Yeah,
about.
no, I'm
Yeah.
just saying it is a slight, you know, it is a different experience in the way that many of us have.
But
But anyway, moving on, what's Tracy going to be wearing? Or what's
Well,
Tracy wearing? And what's she
I'm
gonna-
dressed up to stay in, but I would really like to just be going out and meeting up with some of my girlfriends over a big, tall cappuccino and a slice of cake.
Well,
Sounds
maybe we
lovely.
should try and do that next week anyway. Perhaps on
Mm,
a day when we don't have the stream. Make it women only, I think.
yes, yeah.
And for anyone who
Like
can't
it.
see, Robin was only pretending to be upset about that. So it's National Answer Your Cat's Questions Day, which I'd never heard of till I was going through things this morning thinking, is there anything significant about this date? And apparently, it's not even just been made up this year, but it's a serious day in some ways where it's really about kind of trying to raise awareness of some of this, you know, sort of issues for cats, dangers for cats. Is that right, Julie? You've been doing some more reading?
I've done a little bit of reading. It does seem, yes, I think it's, do we answer the question that our cats give us? Or do we answer questions about cats? Now, if we answered questions that our cats give us, I suspect we'd have a very different show.
Well, I don't know. I was thinking it'd be quite fun to think about some of the questions the cats would really like to ask us. But elsewhere on the internet, you'll be able to find lots of useful advice. I think it should be ask your cats questions because, Leonardo, can you explain to me why you keep eating through cables? Why do you prefer lighting cables? Why do you prefer the thin cables? Do you have any idea of how much it's cost me so far? And the cat isn't answering.
I can assure you that I perennially ask our cats questions.
Yeah.
I think the questions that I came up with earlier on was I was looking at some snaps of the cats, and there was, I think, three things that struck me. One is that it's absolutely fine to have a mixed group of cats of different ages and different genders. I think what helps is if they're neutered. And I think that's quite important because the population of feral cats and stray cats, you know, from people who have just dumped them and they haven't been neutered is just desperate. And Celia Hammond locally does an awful lot, you know, in the rescuing of them. I think the other thing is that it's absolutely fine for cats to sit and look out of a window. If you've got a cat which, for whatever reason, doesn't go outside, and sometimes that's for the cat's safety, and sometimes that's a condition of adoption, then it's absolutely fine for them to sit and look out of the window. And our cats do that regularly. It's part of their routine, their morning routine. What that does is it gives them a sense of territory without putting them in danger. They also love the little fluttery leaves and birds and other animals. They often, I think, you know, have a laugh at the dogs in the garden below, which unfortunately the dogs don't think is very funny. And the other thing that struck me was looking at the sort of senior cat who must be, how old is Dolly? She's about 11, 12.
Well, I'm trying to work out. I think the oldest cat currently, because we currently have 3 rescue cats of mine, including Leo, who are studio cats, and then we have Julie's 2 rescue cats in the office because we couldn't leave them behind, obviously. I think the oldest in this house is probably coming up to 14, and the youngest is coming up to 3.
Right. Well, I watched her earlier today, and she was on her back and she was playing with a little soft catnip toy, and she was loving it and playing with it all on her own. And I think that's important to recognize, is that if you've got a cat on its own, or you know, sort of that you've had a cat for a long time and you think, oh, it doesn't do anything other than sleep in a box. We won't mention any names here, but you know, little catnip toys just sort of round and about. They sometimes, without you even looking at them, will just go and play with them.
Yes, I mean, Leo's just been sharpening his claws, but not on us,
Happily.
fortunately. But I think if you have just recently adopted a cat, or if you're thinking of one, you know, the rescue centres are still inundated despite everything, you know, then those basics of a scratching post, learning how to clip their claws, making sure they've got lots of toys, making sure they've got comfortable, safe places to sleep. But if you've got anybody at home or in live chat wants to give us some questions the cats
What should
might be
you-
asking. Yes, Leo's now going on to one of his other favourite things, which is I have our schedule on a community fund whiteboard with magnets, and what he's currently doing is removing the magnets. That's always he looks at me and he'll watch me on air, and then he'll just slowly, because the question is, why aren't you looking at me? What?
Did you have a question, Trace?
Yeah, we've got 2 cats, and we've always had cats. We've actually got 2 sisters at the moment, and they go around together, they hunt together. Unfortunately, they do enjoy hunting, but they go outside. I want to know why, when we're eating our dinner and their dinner is down, they insist on climbing up onto the booth, which we've got by our table, to watch us eat our dinner and help themselves to a little bit of our dinner if they can get in quick enough.
Well, the question really is coming from the cats. Why is you expecting us to eat that? And not giving us a seat at the table. If you sit here for long enough, you might finally get round to laying a place. So, for everybody who tuned in thinking this was a disability art and chat show, we will now move swift. No, we won't move swiftly on. One more thing,
Just
Julie.
one more thing, just to sort of say, you can teach your cat to come when it's called.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And I think that's important, because if, for example, you've got cats that are popping out into the garden and sort of exercising in different parts of the house even, it's useful to be able to call them if you need them for something, if you need to put them in a box and take them to the vet or something, or if you're worried about them being outside and you haven't seen them for a while. It's useful to train them to come when they're called.
It is. I'm only smiling because I'm just thinking if only your assistant's dog did this. Unfortunately, with any animal training, you have to keep repeating it. And our poor dogs have not been out of this tiny little environment for 10 months now. So, again, I think the cats are kind of, I'm sure they have all sorts of questions about the dogs, but I would really rather move on, because we're going to talk about some of the sort of art and craft around our Join In From Home program, and then we're going to pop a video on to tell you a bit more about some other aspects of the Join In From Home program. I've got some pictures that people have sent in. But first, I think, Tracy, if I pop this picture up on the screen, and I'm going to solo it just to stop the, well, hopefully try and stop the system laying it on its side, which it does sometimes for no apparent reason.
Oh, wow.
So do you want to start by audio describing this, Tracy?
Yeah, this is a 3D. It's all made out of paper and straws, so all the sorts of things you'd probably have in the home. But I've done it so that it appears to be a 3D vase, with 3 straws sticking out of the top, with slightly 3D heart-shaped flower petals. And then I've stuck that onto an A4 piece of card. So when you hold it up, it looks like a 3D vase, which I had a lot of fun doing, actually.
So, yeah, do tell us much more about it. I'm just going to flag up for viewers. We have a highlights and links page. It's linked from the Together Unlocked TV page on our website. It's also in the pull down menu from Together Unlocked TV. We'll have links to all of the things we've mentioned today, and including the photos and videos. But we'll also have the instructions up there that Tracy's now just going to talk us through about how to make this.
Yeah.
So where do you start, Tracy? Do you start with the vase or the flowers, or is that chicken and egg?
No, actually, I do a lot of art things at the moment because I'm a Girls Brigade leader, and we've continued to do Girls Brigade online all through lockdown. So I'm tasked every week with finding activities to do that are suitable to do over Zoom. And this is, I mean, I found it on YouTube. I mean, it's just amazing the amount of stuff you can find on there. And I've got 2 different ages of girls. So we've got from reception through to year 3, which I think is about 7. So we've got 5 to 7, and then we've got 7 to 11. And in fact, this was one of the pictures that all the girls wanted to do. You start with the basic print out, so you can print out the vase and print out some hearts, colour those in. So I've done it with some simple gel pens, which gives it a bit of a sparkle. The folding, and then hopefully we can have all the instructions up on the website if anyone wants to have a go. 3 straws to make the flower stems, and then I chose to use hearts. And you again print out your hearts, colour them in, and I've written some words on my hearts, which are friendship, fun, and kind, which I thought was describing myself. You fold the hearts in half, stick them down, and they give this 3D effect. So, really easy to make. It takes a while with the colouring, but actually I found that really peaceful and calming.
And I was
Yeah.
wondering, just because of the whole straw thing where people are, the plastic straws are banned,
Mm.
not everybody has got round to getting cardboard straws yet. And yes, people don't have as many McDonald's straws around as they might have in a more usual year. You can almost make the stems by, I would have thought, rolling up very thin pieces of paper.
Yeah, definitely. Anything really. I try and always use things I've got in the house. Obviously, not being able to get out. I've got a good supply of stuff under my bed, which I use for my girls' brigade. But luckily, I had got some not plastic, the paper straws. But yeah, easily you could just cut some stems out of a different colour and stick those on. They don't need to be round. But yeah, roll it, and that creates the 3D effect.
I mean,
My able assistant is holding one right in front of the mic. I think the picture you've got shows it much more clearly.
Yeah, that wipes out. Sorry.
But yeah, I enjoyed doing it.
Yeah, I mean, another question I had, just because I'm aware not everybody has a printer, and these days it's becoming quite an issue. Your ink runs out and the shop isn't open to get some more. I know you can't use the template if you can't cut it out, but I was wondering whether you'd done any experiments, even things like the flyers that come through the door. We still seem to be getting all of that kind of rubbishy leaflets and things. You could do something a bit funky if you haven't got colouring pens or a printer. But
yeah, absolutely. Like junk art, I love making. I call it junk art. Quite used to get all those shiny bits of paper through in those menus. What I could do is I could give you the dimensions of the vase as well, and that would sort of provide you with the template layout. I think that could be quite cool actually, doing it with leaflets and flyers that come through the door.
Well, I think it's just about finding a way that everybody can do it, despite the limitations. I mean, I know we've put a link up before to a flour and water glue recipe on Wikipedia, which we might just pop up again. Although I think what we said last year was you were less likely to have flour in the house. But I think stocks have improved since. But yes, you can even make your own glue, can't you?
Yeah.
Do you have any other tips
for general art or this?
Well, I was thinking this in particular. I mean, for example, would it make, I know you've put it as a 3D picture, would it make a greetings card as well?
It would actually. I mean, we've got Valentine's Day, we've got Mother's Day, we've got, all of those sorts of days. I think it'd be a really fun activity to do, and something quite personal to provide to a loved one, because I put words on. You can put special words or special events that are meaningful to that person on the flowers. I think you could be really creative with this. I think we can put a challenge out there, Ju, if you want. That let's see how creative we can be, and I'll add myself into that with some flyers that come through the door. In our vases, let's do a 3D vase and some flowers and see what we get.
And to be honest, I think that you could assuming you can actually get to the stuff on the instructions,
Yeah.
you can make it any size that you want. So as long as you get the idea of the basic shape and where the lines are to fold, then kind of that's actually all you need.
Yeah.
I think it's just brilliant because, like you say, it's every occasion you give
Yeah.
flowers, and that makes it a suitable card or picture for every occasion. I think
Yeah.
it's just a question of, if you're posting it, you probably need to sort of pad it a little bit, or find a way, and there may be a way that we can pack things separately. If we find a way, we'll put that up on the
Yeah.
internet as well. I'm just going to take that lovely picture down and show us some of the things that we've had sent in. So this is from Pritesh Patel. Just bear with me a minute.
Wow.
So this is a picture. It's a painting mostly in shades of blue of a lake with sort of greeny blue foreshore, some trees. What I think is a little red hut, but it could actually be, there's some red outlining the mountains in the background in front of the sky as well. To me, I think, having worked in Europe, it's like a very Central European lake where, you know, you've got the mountains, and then often quite high above sea level still, you've got these lakes and the sort of green around them. But another change of style again from Pritesh Patel. Now, this is from our arts club. Just bear with me a minute. So this is from Sophia, and I think it's taken from a still life that they did. It's very, very stylized in felt tip with a flower. It's in yellows, reds, and a bit of blue. It's just really, really colourful, and she's written her name at the bottom and apologies for not being able to read it. I'm one of the many people whose glasses would have been replaced by now were it not for COVID. And then finally, this is a still life from Glory Sengo. And that's another one in felt tip. It's a massive departure for Glory, actually. He's covered, it looks to me like an A3 artist pad, and it's completely covered with colour, which is great. There's blue in the foreground, there's black in the background. And then I wish I knew what the still life was. They forgot to tell me.
I think it's a basket.
Well, it certainly looks like a basket in this one, but again, it's really quite stylized, and I love all the energy of the felt tip. There's so many different felt tip strokes, and I think because you've got the two different shades of orange and you've got the yellow in the middle, it's just really, really vibrant and cheerful, and just what you need for January. I'm not entirely sure what it's propped up against, but if you're looking at the photo, I think there's possibly the brown bit is a table in the background, and then there's some ornament in the left hand corner.
It looks like it. He's given quite a lot of depth to that picture, hasn't he? I'm really impressed with all of them.
Yes, so we have our art club running on Zoom now. It's a shorter session. Our club's program, sorry for anybody who's new to us, our club's program is free to disabled people. You know, that's entirely a self-definition. We don't ask for paperwork or proof. And we usually run them in a weekday morning in East London. We have an extended join in from home program, so you don't have to have access to Zoom and data to join in with what we're doing. But come last October, we decided it was sensible to just accept reality and reintroduce some Zoom work. So the art club, you're looking horrified, Julie.
No, I'm not.
Is that just a thoughtful face?
That was a thoughtful face. This is me thinking.
Okay, so the Arts Club still meets on a Tuesday and Friday. We've cut the time down from 2 hours to 1, just in terms of data costs and screen fatigue. On a Tuesday, we have Macon Natter. The international artist Alison Marchant leads our club's programme. And what she does is she comes up with a creative craft on a Tuesday that you can do with what you've got at home, but it's also something that you can use as a technique within fine art. So everything is really accessible, very inclusive, but can be used at any level. Or if you're already knitting something or making something or doing something, we invite you just to come along to that club session, to have a natter and to show your work to other people. And then on a Friday, which was our drawing and painting session, we've turned that into a still life session. And again, Alison creates the still lives. We also have a poetry club on a Wednesday, which is a phone-based club. So there's more than I can tell you about today, and there's more that we're doing really than this excerpt from the full Join In From Home programme video. So go on to our website, www.together2012.org.uk, look at the Join In From Home programme link, and there's a great deal there. I'm going to pop on a video, and that's just going to tell you a little bit more about what you can do in terms of art, music, and also what you can watch and listen to with us. But I'm going to say thank you and goodbye to Tracy.
Yeah.
Because when we come back, she will be not replaced, because nobody ever replaced Tracy. Tracy will be off to do more important things, and we will be rejoined by Josh. But we look forward to seeing Tracy again next Friday.
Thanks,
And
Ju. Thanks,
of
Julie.
course, on Monday.
Okay. Bye.
Thanks, Tracy. Bye.
Bye. Together 2012 is running a Join In From Home programme from our website, together2012.org.uk. Click on the link at the top of the page, Join In From Home, to go straight to the main page, where you have a wide range of accessible, inclusive creative activities, mostly using things that you would already have at home. At the top of the page and throughout the pages, you will also see videos in British Sign Language to translate the site for deaf people. These videos can also be useful if you have difficulties reading and you simply want to hear more of the content. The Join In From Home programme is based on the activities that we would usually be running in East London. So, for example, we have an arts club which usually operates on a Tuesday with craft-based activities, and on a Friday morning for drawing and painting. Here you can join in with the arts club's Hands project and celebrate your uniqueness and membership of the human race. There are full instructions on the linked page here. But essentially, we invite you to draw around your hand on a piece of card. It could be an old cereal packet. Cut the shape out, turn it over, and decorate it with anything you would like to do. It could be paints, crayons, glitter, collage, beads, leaves, anything you can think of. Photograph your hand or hands and send it to us at tv@together2012.org.uk. We'll add it to our video installation and share it on social media. Our music club usually meets on the first Friday of each month. We have an open mic session and we invite everybody to play along with percussion instruments. So here you can learn how to make your own percussion instruments from recycled materials. And you can also join in a percussion workshop from last summer in terms of carnival percussion. So these three instruments are used most often in carnival. We have a shaker and a go-go and a hand drum. So this is how to make a recycled shaker, a recycled go-go, and a recycled hand drum. You can also, if you're technically minded, make your own tactile sound instrument. This does require a few simple electronics, but is a very interesting and exciting project as part of our Vibrafusion ongoing work. You can also listen with Together. We have Spotify playlists created by Robin Surgeoner, also known as our TV presenter Angry Fish. And we also have 2 classical music playlists from Bournemouth Symphony Orchestra, including one that's uniquely suited to people who are feeling very unwell.
It's nice to see the video again, isn't it?
Thanks. Welcome, Josh. Would you like
Yes.
to do some introductions and some audio description? And I just wanted to add that apparently I didn't say what I was dressed up to go out to stay in to do. So I am going to one of the singer Bish's Women in Technology music nights. There you have it. In terms of music, we're looking forward to the end of the show when Robin, also known as Angry Fish, will be, as usual, playing us out with a tune. But we also very much welcome your contributions. If you've recorded a new song, picked up a guitar and sung an old familiar one, send us the video. We'd love to play it. But in the meantime, welcome, Josh.
Hi, everyone. I'm Josh Surgeoner. I'm one of the other hosts for Together Unlocked, and I am a doctoral research student. My audio description, I have long blonde hair, but it looks rather dark under the lights at the moment. Slightly, a little bit of facial hair growing, and then today I'm wearing a long-sleeved kind of navy blue hoodie with red trousers, and then if you can see the logo, it says the University of Worcester, and it has the crest of the university on it. And I am dressed up for a nice Bucks road trip. So lots of in-car games, lots of I Spy, lots of categories, lots of last one back to the car, smells like eggs after you go for a wee break and a McDonald's at the service stations. And so yeah, that's me.
So now the challenge to the family over the weekend is to set all that up at home. I was noticing that there were stories in the media of people recreating Premier Inn rooms at home. Now, I've often stayed in Premier Inns for work. We don't tend to go away for pleasure because if you travel as a wheelchair user, there's very often no such thing. But I was quite struck at the idea of that. But you could easily cramp yourselves into one tiny space and then only let people get up every 2 hours to go to the loo.
Yeah, it's an option.
And if lockdown continues much longer, it'll just get more and more attractive. Believe you me.
It'll make spot the letters on the license plates difficult, though, won't it?
Yeah, there's
What's the difference? We haven't moved for 3 hours.
You're in a traffic jam, darling.
Yeah.
Big we're all artists. Just play Stuck in a Traffic Jam on the M25.
The M25, yeah.
Like that poor person who drove all the way around the M25 and thought they were in Scotland.
Ah.
The M1 is difficult to that. Yes, if we ever go driving again, I mean, of course, at the moment we're still paying for 2 vehicles to sit outside and occasionally have their batteries replaced by the carriage. But again, that's not an unusual situation in January 2021. So on a Friday, we traditionally recommend something for the weekend that you can still do in the age of COVID. And I'm going to start because I'm so excited. Our writer in residence, who fortunately before 2020 was already a virtual writer in residence, Penny Pepper, who is now based in Hastings, is on Radio 4 Saturday Live tomorrow morning from 9 o'clock. The other guests include the actor Anna Friel, who I still feel is most famous for the first lesbian kiss on TV in Brookside back in the 80s, comedian Ed Burns, and Stephen Morris, who famously was in Joy Division and now, of course, New Order. So it's a really sterling lineup. We're very, very proud of our Penny. She's going to be talking about her past work, current work, and forthcoming book. So 9 o'clock might seem a little bit early on a Saturday. Wake yourself up, get yourself a cup of tea, stay in bed, but pop on Radio 4.
Or you can catch up on it with the sound app, with the BBC radio sound app, where it'll be on demand.
Yeah, and we'll put the BBC Sounds app up under the Something for the Weekend link because you've mentioned that before as something for people to look at, isn't it? And I mean, you find the radio at night if you can't sleep. very, very helpful, don't you?
Oh, I love it. And the Sound app brings in programs from all of the BBC radio channels and radio stations. Sorry, and it's interesting. I've sometimes missed some of the Hercule Poirot stories, and I listen to them, of an afternoon. They're and also some of the political broadcasts. Americast is fantastic. I love that. Sort of. I just love it, especially over the last week. It's been wonderful.
So we'll put Penny Pepper's website link up on our highlights and links page as well. And then you'll be able to find out more about Penny if you don't already know her, and also find links to her books of autobiography, poetry, and short stories. So, yeah, I'm really excited about that. And well done, Penny Pepper. What have you guys got for us?
You want to go on one? No.
Yes, we've got a good collection of things, I think. So the first one, and I think you actually talked about it at the start of the show, was Amanda Gorman's poem from the inauguration. That was just wonderful. And it's one that she'd written before, but then she kind of updated it for the inauguration. And it's a great poem, and you can find it kind of written down. But if you do kind of look online, I'll send a link to a video of her performing it kind of at the inauguration. She was the youngest poet to ever read for a president at an inauguration. And it's just a wonderful piece of poetry.
And I think if you're a poet, or you'd like, if you're beginning to write poetry and thinking one day I might even be brave enough to read it in public, the performance, I mean, she could have been 3 times her age. The performance was just so polished and, just absolutely wonderful. I'm not surprised that the thing that everybody's taking away from the inauguration is this young Black poet, but that's the reality. And what a change to 3 weeks ago.
Yes.
Yeah. So I'll give you the first one of mine, because it also kind of follows on naturally in a kind of talking about poetry. But there's an event on this evening from 6 till 8:30, and it's called Drop the Disorder. And it's an evening of spoken word performances, but it's pieces that have been created to challenge the cultures of kind of psychiatric diagnosis, and looking at pathology. I'm going to read it: the pathologizing of emotional distress, to make sure I get the words absolutely right. And it just looks really interesting. I mean, it's kind of it's disruptive kind of stuff. It's about questioning. It's very much from a disability arts perspective, but and it's saying, well, hold on, stop trying to tell us who we are by your kind of interpretation, and listen to our interpretation of who we are and who you might be. So I think that's kind of really cool. And there is I think it's a £1 minimum donation to listen to that one.
And who's organising that? I mean, there's such a flowering of disability art at the moment, isn't there? Which is quite wonderful.
I think the organisers will be listed in the link in the listing.
Okay, so it's not a kind of organizer. Yeah, it's not.
Yeah, I mean, I think it is. I think it's not that. I think it's they've done more, but I haven't got that
I
written
think
down.
he's just forgotten. Is what he's
It's
getting
always
at.
so nice to have a young person around. But yes, we'll put that in the link. That does sound like an excellent night. And of course, there's also in Wednesday's links the online commissions from Film Pro, which were neurodiverse artists doing digitally specific commissions. We reviewed that on Wednesday. We put the link in, and again, I would thoroughly recommend that as something to do for the weekend as well. Julie,
I'm going to watch Sophie's Choice on YouTube, although it's available on a whole range of options. And on Eventbrite, I'm going to book up on Sunday to to take part, or at least observe, a discussion about Sophie's Choice in relation to Holocaust Day, which is coming up next Wednesday.
Yes, and actually, that's a good opportunity for me to remind viewers what we said, I think, a couple of weeks ago. We're going to do a pre-recorded special program for Holocaust Memorial Day next Wednesday, the 27th of January. We're going to be looking at the Holocaust from our perspective as disabled people, and also as disabled people who are also gay, who are also Jewish, who are also people of colour. So that show is being produced at the moment and is coming up next week. And well, yes, I mean, I think that will say everything that we want to say, but it is a particularly important year to be celebrating, or I should say commemorating, Holocaust Memorial Day, but also looking at what it means for us today. Am I right in thinking Sophie's Choice is a film that was made back in the 80s?
Yes, it's quite old now in sort of relative terms. It was one of the early Meryl Streeps. And although the subject matter itself was extremely serious, she was practicing accents at the time, which always makes me smile when I think about it in isolation. The film itself is very powerful, and it's a long time since I've seen it, so I'll look forward to seeing it again.
Yeah, I've got the book downstairs, I think, in my library. So, what else have you got for us, Josh?
It was just a few different kind of TV suggestions, really. So it's something that we started watching last week, I think, maybe. And it's on Amazon currently, called Stargirl, which is another kind of superhero. Yeah, there's loads of them out at the moment, and I think she's kind of 15 or 16 in the show, and she ends up kind of finding out that she's got this connection to a magical stick. It's not a spoiler. It happens in the first episode, but actually, we've been watching it, and it's quite I mean, it's a good story to be honest, but it's quite enjoyable because of her character, in that she's just kind of the nicest, most supportive, warmest kind of person. And she's in this world where everyone's just, well, lots of people are awful, but she's just really nice to everybody, and she's always wears some great, whoever kind of dyes her t-shirts for the show. I want to know where they shop because she has some great outfits.
Yeah, I mean a lot of empowerment and women's empowerment based t-shirts.
But yeah, it's just a kind of a good fun show.
Yeah, I've not heard of it, so thanks for
Yeah.
that. What else do you recommend we watch?
And then the other one, I thought these are subscription-based things, unfortunately, but just make new email accounts and keep getting a free trial. But I didn't say that. But there's not a huge amount of sport going on at the moment. But there is a very large list of sports documentaries that are kind of on Netflix and Amazon primarily. And then if you like sport, then they'll be interesting because you're interested in the sport. But I think one of the things that they do really well is, if it's a good show, obviously, is the storytelling in it makes people that have no interest in it be interested in it. So, for example, I've been watching The Last Dance on Netflix, which is a documentary about Michael Jordan primarily. And Mum couldn't really care less about NBA and professional basketball in the 80s and 90s, but she loves the show because it's a really engaging story. And there's one around Formula One called Drive to Survive that's also on Netflix. And then Amazon have a series called All or Nothing, that follows a professional sports team. And they've done it with professional American football, college American football. They have one with the All Blacks, which is New Zealand's rugby team. There's football ones. I think there's a baseball one. There's a hockey one. I think there's a cricket one coming up. So, I mean, they cover a huge variety of sport. and I've not really watched many of them. I've only kind of seen bits and pieces. But I think as there's not a huge amount of sport going on, I'm going to kind of make the most of my subscription services and kind of work through some of those, because yeah, it's really interesting to get that kind of behind the scenes story that you don't really get a lot of the time from kind of watching sport or just reading it in the news.
Yes, I mean, we had a sports documentary won the CAT Award for Best Documentary at our Together Disability Film Festival. And I think that was one that you'd originally reviewed for me, Robin. But one of the things that was really apparent was that a lot of these things come out in Olympic year, you know, because most films take more than a year to produce whatever they're about. So I think there's a sort of release date where lots and lots of things were planned to be released in 2020 because of the extra kind of interest, and also after the games, because traditionally for at least 6 months, not apparently any longer judging by East London's experience, but for at least 6 months afterwards, everybody's more interested in sport. So now these kind of documentaries are coming out anyway. But I agree with you, you know, I'm, with the exception of bodyboarding and sailing, I'm not a great sports person. Yes, I like to go and see the tennis, but I prefer to see it live. But I find some of these documentaries are just, yeah, like you say, a good story is a good story.
Can I just say about a story which is unraveling in Melbourne at the moment is the tennis Grand Slam, and how people are coping. The tennis players are coping with exercising in what would be effectively a Premier Inn room.
Well, I know, and we won't go back over that discussion that we had on Wednesday when we have sports. But what I would say for anybody who's having to deal with family members, friends, or neighbours who are still COVID idiots in denial is that one of the tennis players who was complaining how stupid it was to be quarantined in her room has already developed COVID and has posted profuse apologies on the internet, because last week she was saying, this is ridiculous, I wasn't seated in the same area of the plane as the infected person, and now she is in a so-called health hotel with symptoms, obviously understanding finally why the Australians had that policy. But moving on, do we have more recommendations from the West Midlands? Because in a few minutes' time, it's going to be time for Robin to play us out.
I mean, I've got one more, and again, the headline with it is that it will cost you £11.37 to take part, which is £10 plus a booking fee on Eventbrite. But hey, we haven't been out, so hopefully some of us have got a few pennies that they would have normally spent on going out. And it's called Hoof the Cancer and 2020. And basically it's an online comedy quiz being hosted by, or emceed, whichever, by Rod Gilbert, who is a Welsh comedian and very funny. He's a very good situational physical comic, isn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah, so the full title is the third installment of the Hoof the Cancer and 2020 Right Where It Hurts quiz. And it just, you know, there's not a lot more detail, but you know, if you like a quiz and you like to hear jokes and you like to see people laughing and probably some people making fools of themselves, because good comedy often entails that, I think it's worth it. I mean, and it very clearly says that the 10 quids that you pay goes, you know, the only money that isn't going out of your £11.37 is the money, the kind of the facilitation fee. So the 10 quid is going to cancer research. So, you know, that's kind of good.
Yeah, I think it's a very good way to make a donation, isn't it? I mean, I think a lot of us personally know people who are living with cancer who've had a dreadful, you know, time of it. Let's face it, over the last 12 months, even if they've had their treatment on time, it's been very worrying. So, yeah, if you've got the money and you've got the time, that sounds like a really excellent thing to do. Julie, did you have any more items? Quick ones.
Vendée Globe coming into the last few days, and Damien Seguin the Paralympic sailor is up there in the first 5. It's going to be a massive sprint to the finish. I'm very excited about it. I follow it each day.
Brilliant. So we've been following the Vendée Globe single-handed around the world without stopping race in yachts, I should have said, ever since it started. So we'll be putting up the latest link so you can follow that one live. That's really bringing us to the end of our show. So before Robin introduces his song and plays us out, coming up on Monday, our items regularly include Update. Update started as an item about the NHS COVID-19 app when we were helping to pilot it, but it's now about all things app related, arty and creative. So we're going to be looking at arts apps. What else are we going to be doing, Julie?
I do not know.
So we'll be doing lots of interesting things on Monday, and as usual on a Monday that includes talking about photography and filmmaking. And on a Monday we finish with an item called Relax with Arwa, where Arwa Jagnay from our associate drama company Act Up Newham gets us gently into the Monday afternoon with a nice meditative relaxation. I don't think it's going to be quite that meditative from Robin Surgeoner, but I'll leave him to introduce it. From us, stay safe, stay home, stay creative and stay well. Have a great weekend.
Bye. Enjoy your weekend.
Okay, well, actually, I have to say, I think this song is probably really relatively contemplative, actually, and it's called Hope, and it is just kind of about thinking positively. Sweet scented haze, dappled rays, childhood memories of endless games, teen blushes, headbound blood rushes, the call of the innocent, a call to the masses. Dreaming of dreams, seemingly invincible. With every new dawn, hope springs eternal. Heavenly intention, the mother of invention. Peace in our lives, optimistic sensations. Peace in our lives, optimistic sensations. Let me take you by the hand. Let me lead you to a land where peace and love abound. Let me take you to a place where the sun shines on your face, love is in your heart. Summer days, blue skies and ocean spray, birds on the wing singing as they soar away. Free as a cloud drifting through azure skies. Release your mind and your soul will realize truth and charity, grace and morality. What keeps us grounded is a special kind of gravity. When the source of life is the source of all creation, let's sing and shout and dance a hallelujah celebration. Let's sing and shout and dance a hallelujah celebration. The sun is heaven high and hope shines through your eyes. We feel we all belong. Our hearts leap with love for a presence from above that makes us all so strong. Let me take you by the hand, let me lead you to a land where peace and love abound. Let me take you to a place where the sun shines on your face and love is in your heart. Let me take you by the hand. Let me lead you to a land where peace and love abound. Let me take you to a place where the sun shines on your face and love is in your heart. Love is in your heart. Be strong. Have hope. Have a great weekend. Bye from Together Unlocked.